Hi, I'm Mike Wagner from the Mike Wagner Show. I was just interviewed by Keith Andrew on the Keith Andrew Network, and he's one of the best personalities out there, not just in New York City, but the whole nation and the world. So make sure you tune in to the Keith Andrew Network at the KeithAndrewNetwork.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Keith Andrew Network. This is episode 582. That's right, it's 582. I'm here with a good friend, Mike Wagner. I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Hey, thank you, Keith. It's great to be here in the beautiful city of Bismarck, North Dakota, and glad to be on episode number 582. It's going to take me a while to get to that level where you're at. It's like I think I've lost count after 100. So.
Hey, I've been doing this for almost 6 years, knock on wood. This is what I want to do until I die. I'm very passionate about it.
Mm-hmm. I don't blame you. You know, radio people are just like that. It's like, you know, they just do it and then die with a microphone in their hands or in their mouth, especially with a pair of headphones. It looks better in the grave. So.
No, absolutely. And last night, I do want to plug real fast that last night we did an episode for your talk show. And I know there was a raw demo copy, but I took the time to sit there and re-edit it, and I knocked it down from an hour to a half hour. So actually, it moves a lot faster. It's slick. You can see it on YouTube.com on the Keith Andrew Network brand. Go to YouTube, type in KeithAndrewNetwork.com. Comes right up. Go to Facebook, KeithAndrewNetwork.com. Go to the fan page. It's there. And the difference between your show and my show is I like to see who you're actually talking to. I hate talking. I really do. Something about it. I really hate talking on the phone because it feels like I'm talking to myself. This, I get to dress up. It's more professional. I get to see who I'm talking to. Otherwise, I'm like this, and I'm like walking around the room. I'm easily distracted. It's like, who the hell am I talking to? But I'm more of a video person. But with that being said, for people who want to know who Mike Wagner is, you're actually a talk show host, number one, like we were talking about. You're also a host, producer, voiceover, and CEO. And the very first thing I'm going to ask you is, how was life growing up? And did you enjoy high school or college?
Well, actually, I'm going to say, first of all, that career-wise, I got started in 1982, that graduating high school, where I was actually planning on being a sports writer and get into computers at the same time. There was a technology wave that was going on. But then, when it came to 1982, I was getting ready to take some computer classes, and they didn't offer journalism where I was going to school for 2 years, and planning on where, God knows where, afterwards, after 2 years, and I took computer classes just for the sake of it. I ran across a booth in a student center, and it's called WHCM. I thought, what is this? You know, I kind of enjoyed see what's like on the radio. And then when I looked over, talked to people, said, hi, how you doing, and told them about myself. And I was getting ready to just pick up this piece of information about the radio station. I felt something just bite me. It's like, what is that? Do I itch or something? And I was just filling out the application and said, hey, great, we'll contact you. And then next thing you know, I was like so enthused beyond the air, but I was scared. Then I found out it was a thing called the radio bug that bit me. That was like the thing like on Spider-Man where it's like, you know, you get these spidey powers, you get bit by the radioactive bug. Well, this time it was a radio bug that bit me, and that's how I got hooked. So it's like I kind of just ditched the studying of computers and kind of jettisoned the sports writing, and I started pursuing broadcasting right there. And then it was just like, you know, I went through that, and then did some news, sports, my own show, and everything else. And I went on to Southern Illinois University 3 years after that, and joined up with all my guys from high school and college, and eventually went down to Southern Illinois and Party School Carbondale back at the time in the 80s, so that's how dated I am. So I was over there, and I actually got into broadcasting, went at WSIU, then WIDB, Southern Illinois Media Services, got into voiceovers, did a little bit of writing on the side and everything, and I realized this is just something I really wanted to do. And I had won some personal awards, you know, not this, you know, Entertainer of the Year and all that. It's just thank you for your service and everything else. That's the kind of awards I like having, is simply just service. It's like, you know, feeling good to serve, you know, a radio station, the community, and listeners and everything else. And so after I did that, went back up to Chicago area, and I ended up just getting into a couple of radio stations, did some mobile DJ work, and took on some other ventures. And I later eventually got into audiovisual management, took a break from broadcasting to raise a young family. And then I worked in ministry for several years, did some other work for radio station, other duties, and they're cutting back on people. I was about to get laid off, and then I got back in radio full-time again, just being at a station near Milwaukee called WRLR, and then I did some voiceover work up for there, doing real estate and whatever else. And then I got called in 2007 by an Arizona consulting firm to come out to Bismarck, North Dakota, to work on some of their media outlets, and they're going to send me to Texas, but we love the area so much we stayed, and I spent time with KDKT for about 3 years, worked with some guys in Texas. They left, and a group from Oklahoma came in, and they said, nah, we don't need you. And then later that year, in 2010, I signed up at KFYR, just doing some sports, and later I got myself a couple of shows on the weekends, produced sports, did some play-by-play, and of course, the Mike Wagner show eventually came around. People were asking me, it's like, you going to interview me? Where you do interviews? And I was resistant at first. I said, I really don't want to do interviews. I hate doing interviews. And after all this cajoling, I said, okay, I'll do it. And then how the Mike Wagner show came about was executive producer Steve Joyner called me up and said, hey, how'd you like to interview celebrities? I love what you got. And I said, sure, we can talk more. And we got into it more while I was vacationing up in the Black Hills in South Dakota with family. We talked a lot, talking about the Black Hills and Chicago sports and Milwaukee and everything else. And then eventually started up in August of last year, 2018, moved over to the podcast. And this is where we stand, the MikeWagnerShow.com. And check out Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeart Radio, and also YouTube as well. And I'm open for options on where else to go. And then I'll be starting up on Liberty Beacon TV network at tlbtv.com coming up in April. So you can check me out.
No, absolutely. And the big difference from your show that I mentioned on the show last night is when I first started was audio. And I like video because I like, dressing up. I like looking nice and handsome. And I do like that hoodie you have. You're just promoting the North Dakota. That's really cool.
North Dakota Fighting Hawks. I'm more on the hockey aspect than football because I'm a hockey fan as well, too, as you can tell. North Dakota, cold, hockey, winter sports, everything else. And it's still 40 degrees when we get close to April. And I feel like Bill Belichick right now coaching the Patriots.
No, and I agree with you. And about that, you mentioned the comment about you do have a voice for radio. And you're right, because you sound perfect for that. And I don't have a voice for radio. I'm still looking for what I want to do. But you're great at what you do. But the difference is I'm more of a video person than just, sitting back in the studio and being like, okay, I don't see you. I don't know what you're talking about, but I guess I will pretend to be interested.
Let me say one thing about this, Keith. Radio is called the theater of the mind. It's where you imagine, you envision, you dream, and you just picture what a person's like behind the mic. Just like I picture what goes on inside a person. It's almost like having this picture being you design in your head when it comes to radio. Unlike with video and TV where it's done for you, radio, it's where you imagine. Think back, War of the Worlds, Orson Welles, 1934, and everybody freaked out. It was an actual war happening. Panic broke out. But in reality, he just did it so good, it was all fake. That was the whole thing, and that's how the radio just really took off. With Orson Welles, radio theater, and you create things, sound effects and voices, and the goblin, whatever else, or like hey, knock on the door, who's there? Stuff like that. You just envision. And, of course, I just enjoy having a little radio by my side, just listening to Green Bay Packer football with a small radio. And then keeping up with the weather. I'm a weatherman my dad gave me when I was about, 9, 10 years old. And listening to hockey games on the radio, WMAQ. Comes baseball, of course, Green Bay Packers, Milwaukee Bucks, and Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, and I even pick up radio. I sneak out at night and see what else I can pick up. Like I pick up St. Louis, and I pick up Minneapolis. I pick up Boston, Cleveland, Denver, and I listen to some top 40 radio in Little Rock, Arkansas, San Antonio, and I also listen to Atlanta Braves baseball game in Atlanta, and Salt Lake City, played some good music, and Kansas City, played some good music. It's like used to be able to just crank up an antenna and just find a spot. You pick up any station you can find, but now you can do that on the internet any time and listen in England or say in Beijing or Dublin, Tokyo, wherever else. Like you can just listen to radio anytime. But back then, the challenge was how far can you pick up a signal, and that's the best part about radio too. So. That's one of the big differences as well. So, one day I can just give you a course on radio as well, too, or I can do a podcast on that. And if you have questions about radio or anything, just if anybody has a question about radio, let me know on Facebook or Instagram or on the Mike Wagner Show. I'll be more than glad to explain it.
No, absolutely. Now, the next question I want to ask you is social media. Can social media make you or break you? And because there's a big generation gap, because you started in 1982 and I started back in 2013, so there's a big-ass difference. Don't get me wrong, I love the 80s. The 80s are great. The music, some movies are great, some are crappy. The video games are classics. I like the early 90s, same thing. Some of the movies are great, some are really bad. But there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter and social media. So what I want to ask you is, everything you accomplished in your life, do you think social media helped you get ahead, or do you think you were better off without it?
I think social media has worked tremendously, because back in the day, it was word of mouth. You went up to people, you wrote letters, phone calls, and everything else. And, of course, doing radio shows, like with this big, bulky, reel-to-reel tape. And, of course, you also had cassettes, you had CDs, and, of course, you had a monster board, which, took up, say, from your dresser all the way to your bed. Controls were, that huge with tons of knobs and everything else. Now it's just it's tiny as your cell phone, your smartphone, Android, or even, say, your tablets. You can do radio shows from just about anywhere. And if I were to go to my car and do a radio show, I can do that, go to a hotel room or find an empty spot in a room, or, or sometimes some people just do it outside, anywhere you can go. It's much more portable. And I think what helped, back now with social media is that when I first got on, I was into MySpace and just posting everything. And when Facebook come around, I posted a few things, try this, try that. And then when I put up some Bible verses up, everybody just ate it like wildfire. And that's how I knew there's an audience out there. And then I grew from that, grew the jokes, news, and I tell everybody where I can be listened to. I put on some songs, funny cartoons, funny quotes, and funny stories and everything. Now, if you look at my page, it's it's all about my show. It's about what I do, and it's all about my family and, of course, my faith, and also, just funny things. I just love making people laugh and making people smile. We're not here to get people down or depressed or anything like that. See all these posts that make people depressing. And of course, to me, it's just there's no point in anything political. It's nowadays, you can't change anybody's mind. So you might as well just be a positive force and just simply say that you're here to make everybody's day smile, make everybody laugh, and whatever else. It's that's the angle I take on the Mike Wagner show, is to make everybody smile, encourage, and whatever else. I'm just a different breed from all the talk shows where you just hear stuff comes out of Howard Stern's mouth, or say with Larry King, or say Rush Limbaugh putting somebody down, Rachel Maddow just ripping everybody just off the wall, whatever. It's and of course you see all these trashy shows, Girls Gone Bad, whatever else. It's I'm trying to do a throwback of Johnny Carson. It's you make the guests laugh, make the audience laugh, and you entertain and whatever else, and just ask questions, encourage them, their careers and everything else, and you'll find out about the person, what they're like. So that's one of the goals of the Mike Wagner Show, is to simply just be very entertaining and informative and just interviewing people doing amazing things just like you. I mean, you're a very interesting person doing an amazing thing, where it's like you're taking on a radio show, establishing your network, and becoming a force in what you do, and pretty much be groundbreaking in what you have as a learning disability. So it's like you can say, hey, anybody has learning disabilities or whatever, this is an opportunity for you, and I'm here to encourage you. I'm here to help. It's like groundbreaking. And I also talked to a guy who's looking to be like the first, disabled black person to break through in filmmaking, or like say a special ed person, like say with a hearing loss looking to break through. It's like all these combinations were dealt with, and just given the fact that you dealt with these really sad odds, but then you go out and make light of it. And of course, myself, I want to share something too about with you having a learning disability. I was diagnosed that in Racine, I had to go to special school and whatever else. And so it turned out as time went on, I didn't let it bother. It turned out to be I just learned to think different, and people accept it after a while. It's like you process things, you learn things, and there's one thing, I actually surprised some people, and when I gave the right answers, and I didn't follow any of the instructions, and they look at me like, how did you do that? And you just amaze people. And it's like you just learn things and be creative. And maybe that's why I'm in radio. It's like you think different, but you just amaze people and what you can do.
No, I agree with you. Now, the next thing I'm going to ask you is, what do you think that you benefit from social media? Because you didn't have that back in the day. So what did you start with that now you're happy that you have?
Well, basically what social media did was you basically just reach out to new people. You made new friends. You made new contacts. It's not in an area where you live. You can easily reach from not just all over the United States, Canada, or Mexico. It's all over the world. It's like you basically have a lot of things in common. I throw something out there about, let's say, who watch Cubs baseball, and then here you have some people like from Minnesota, Washington, Florida, or even England just chiming in. Or I threw on a classic track. It's like, hey, who remembers this song from the association? Then you get people from California, Colorado, Montreal, or Cancun, chiming in. I remember this song. This is great. Or say, hey, do you remember listening to, watching this TV show like, Scooby-Doo? And you get somebody from England, somebody from Paris, somebody from Vancouver, or somebody from, Portland, chiming in. Hey, I remember Scooby-Doo. And here you start making friends. And, of course, you start making friends with radio people. You share with them instantly. Voiceover work, celebrities and talk show hosts like you and I, and people with certain qualities. It's like, you connect a lot easier on social media. And I think it also expands and becomes more of a force. And the reactions are much more instant than he did before. So back in the day, it was just like I said, with the mail and also with phone calls and face-to-face. Now it's like a click of a button or a push of a button, and you've got instant connectivity with a lot of people. And, of course, it requires a lot of reach. But then those also another thing, too. It's like you're going to be tested on new levels. Like, this is going to come out. That's going to come out. That's going to be the next thing. And I talked to a gentleman yesterday that he was involved in a social media where it's like you did the quantum research and you also have new ways of promoting yourself, not the traditional way of reaching out to people, but just simply getting people establishing a fan base and then focusing on super fans to get people to subscribe. So it also teaches you a whole new way to market yourself. And right now, I'm still doing some learning right now. And, of course, I'm light years ahead of you, but I have to say this. It's like I'm never too old to learn, and I just don't buy this crap about you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like, I'm still learning, but I'm still want to learn new tricks just to show it to people is this, hey, I can do this, and I can learn this.
No, absolutely. Now, the next question I was going to ask you is, who were some of your favorite guests that you ever had on your show, and who did you ever have on your show that you that you did not have on your show?
Well, I have to say this is that the majority of guests I had were just fantastic. Some made me laugh, some made me cry, some made me inspired, and some just took me to a whole new level. And there are some where just a little itchy today. And there are some that would just have to pry out of them, to get some answers. But I really had a lot of problems. I say the more challenging ones are the ones that are coming out. You just, try to find out more about them and, whatever else. But I do enjoy those challenges. It's where you just, lay down the foundation. And when they get successful, they can come to you and say, hey, I was on the first time ever on your show, and thank you. And, they might be on the Late Show or MTV or, like, say, on Netflix, ABC, CBS, NBC, or Disney, whatever, and then they just look back and say, hey, I was on your show and I started. And then you got some established talents where it's like they're happy to hear from you, and amazing people just aren't afraid to say what they like and whatever else. So I have to say the majority. I'm not going to be naming names. It's like some maybe laugh really hard. And at one point I was on with a guest that I laughed so hard for 5 minutes I forgot what I was going to ask next. Fumbling through my notes, and I must have just I think I just break into tears, just laughing like crazy, and almost mess up my notes. And I had a lady on there who had PTSD, and she told me about stories about going through some war and helping those in war and acting and everything else. And I just about cried, and I didn't pause or anything like that. I just went through like it's a radio show, and I nearly broke into tears a couple of times. And then there was also some comedians that made me laugh, really hard. And there was a couple of motivational speakers that got me motivated. I had sports people that just told me some lengthy stories that went on, and celebrities who just reach out to you like a regular person. So each person is different. There's always challenges, but a lot of my interviews have just been fantastic, and I really don't have a bad interview, to be honest with you. But, of course, one of the things I have is like, if you think you have a bad interview, just find a way to make it great. I mean, that's just one of my philosophies. Like, the majority of my interviews have just been fantastic. If you listen to my show, it's like you can tell I've had a lot of fun with these people I have on the show.
No, absolutely. Now, the next question I was going to ask you is, who influenced you to become a producer? And how many years have you been producing your own show?
Well, like I said, just goes back to my career starting in 1982, where I was actually influenced by family and friends, and they're encouraging me. It's like, hey, let's see what you do on the radio. You love music, and try this and try that. And I had some friends say to me that, oh, you got a great voice and all this stuff. The first person that told me, I said, BS. I just said straight out because, grade school I was poked fun of and everything else and bullied and everything else, but I'm not going to get into that. It was just like, maybe 5th and 6th grade. My voice is described as Mickey Mouse scratching on a chalkboard with fingernails. That's how annoying I was. And as time went on, I started developing, taking classes and getting on stations and volunteering and everything, started developing the skills. I started coming into fruition where, I became a radio personality. I was a newscaster, sportscaster, play-by-play, and I was an audiobook reader, and I also did some voice acting. I was on a couple of video games in England. I later did some internet radio in London, Dublin, Toronto, and Accra, Ghana. And I was featured on some national commercials, and I did like a little short for Discovery News Channel, Autovagiotto, which I just blew everybody away, and nobody thought I could do a serious piece. And I've actually done some serious work before. And I was in religious broadcasting, and I was in ethnic broker. I was behind the mic, just running other people's shows and everything else. So I have to say is that my family and friends were the influence, and I go back to my guys at WHCM. My first program director, George DeLorto, was a nice inspiration. Then I had my guys, back over there, like, Joe Marino and Jeff Rockman, Mark Belke, and just a lot of other people. I'm just writing off the top of my head. Then going to WSIU, Mary Jane Dwyer, who since passed on. She was just fantastic. Jack Titchener, the news director, John Riley, Jerome Rich, and Glenn Hansen, Dave Singer, and of course Marty Foley, my best friend, who I acknowledge greatly for getting my career off the ground. And everything else. And of course, my wife Serena, who really encouraged me, even through the days of mobile DJing, and just countless and countless of people. God, Juliana, for getting me back in, and just countless. Todd Mitchell, KFYR, for get me onto that. Bismarck and Rick Anthony on sports radio, and Scott Hagen up in Keys Radio, just some play-by-play. Just a lot of people, and most importantly, Steve Joyner, who got me on the Mike Wagner Show. Alan Gitlin, one of my other guys, producer. I love chatting with him. He's the funny G-Man, Artie Hoffman, and he's one that made me laugh so much. And Rebecca Mann from TLB TV. So there's just a lot of people. If I miss anybody out, I do apologize. But there's just a lot of people to thank. And, of course, a big thank you for having me on as well, too. And it's like, persistence is great. I have to say this. And hopefully episode 582 will be great. And if you hit episode 1,000, if you're about to, just give me a shout.
No, absolutely. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to pass the show over to you with the last 8 minutes and counting.
Williams. This is Vanessa Lina. Asian Lalo. I'm Cynthia Bass today. I'm Sonia Fisher. This is Shane Smith. My name is Alexandra Bowie. My name is Amelia Clover. Hi, I'm Amy Linden.
Hi, I'm Amy Nicole Brown.
Meg Green.
Hi, my name is Asata Caldwell. Hi, everybody. I'm Brooke from
Hi, I'm Brynford. Hi, I'm Casey Dunn.
Hi, it's Cassandra Kavinsky.
Hi, I'm Christina Frieza.
I'm Cindy Hogan. I'm Courtney Sinello.
Hi, I'm Daisy.
My name is Deborah Jane East.
Hi, my name is Danielle Marcia.
Everyone, I'm Victoria London.
Hi, I'm Heather Crona.
Hi, I'm Heather Callahan Stevens.
Hi, I'm J. Nicole Ralph.
My name is Jamie Patrell.
My name is Turi.
My name is Julia Blankovich.
Kathleen Wills.
Kimberly Amano.
Hi, my name is Laura Putton.
Hi, I'm Laura Chakanis.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Damas.
This is Michelle Mupo, a.k.a. Fuchsia.
I'm Rachel Olivera.
Hi, my name is Sarah Joy Mount.
Hi, I'm Susan Brender.
Hi, everyone. This is Venus Leone.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Tanner.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Herrera, and I was just on the Keith Andrew Network. It was tons of fun. We used up all our time and then some. I really recommend this show, and try to be a guest on Keith's show. It was super fun.
Wait,
so are we off the air now or what?
Oh, we'll go back on right now.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 582. I am your host, Keith Andrew. Along here was a good friend, Michael Wagner. I just want to say thank you for sticking with us. What's the last 7 minutes, 8 minutes and counting. I'm going to pass it over to you. But you mentioned one thing before we talk commercial break. Is you mentioned a friend who influenced you to get on the Michael Wagner show. So the question I was just thinking to myself is, wait, are you the host of Michael Wagner, the show, or did you join Michael Wagner?
I actually am the host of it. So it's just like I am the host and I do produce, and also, the people I was telling you about are assisting me as well too. And basically what I want, what I'm looking for, and everything else, I pretty much have the creative control, and that's what I like. And, of course, people that assist me, my wife supports me, and my friends support me, and my kids and everything, hey, the more help, the better, whatever else. And, got ideas, commercials, maybe try something, willing to be on a guest, hey, I'd be happy to help you. Got any questions, I'm here for you. Or if you need some advice, I'm here to help you. Or if anybody that has a podcast that needs some production help, or if they're looking for ways to increase the audience, it's like, I'm here to help. It's no longer the business of the cutthroat where it's like back in the day, it's like you fought for listeners and all that stuff, doing cutthroat tactics. Now we have about, over 100,000 podcasts all over the world and growing. I mean, there's no way we're going to be a Joe Rogan or Ron Burgundy. It's just like, we've got our own unique niche in the podcast market. It's like you try to get some people, you build off of that, and they tell friends, and they build off of that. So it's like one of those things. It's like I'll probably sound dated. I remember watching a commercial where this girl tries this shampoo, and it's great. And, of course, if you tell your two friends, and they tell their two friends, and they tell their two friends, and so on and so on and so on, that's how it works. So it's like, one person says, hey, this is a great show, listen. They tell two of their friends, and they listen. They tell two of their friends, they listen, they too. And then just keeps going in a chain. It's like it multiplies. So that's the whole principle of it, like when it comes to shows and everything else. So, And like I said, if you got any questions or if you need some help, just hit me up.
Well, before I pass the show over to you, just one quick question for people who want to know. How do you get yourself out there? Like, say, for an example, you walk over to a celebrity and you say, hey, I have a talk show. I would like you to be on there. How do you show them that you're not a scam, number one? And number two is, how do you get listeners? Passing it over to you.
Well, first of all, I get fed some guests as well through a pipeline, and for her to come up to people, I basically just strike up a conversation. I don't walk up to people and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I want you on the show. You walk up to them and say, just, hey, I like your show, and start a conversation. I tell them who I am and what I do and everything, and just find a little bit more about them, and then you get to a point, you talk a little more wherever else, and just say, hey, you ever heard of this show? And if they're interested, or you can say, here's my business card. So I've done the traditional way of the business cards, and I'm going to show you right now here. So this is for people to check out, and hopefully you guys can all see it. So pass them out, and you can just tell them who I am and get on the show or be a sponsor, just simply be a listener. Business cards is the way to go. Of course, I do the flyers. I do on Facebook and all the social media outlets, and it's also word of mouth. And word of mouth is probably the most fastest and efficient way of doing things. And it's always been the best.
Absolutely.
That's why God gave you a mouth. Use it, yes.
While we're doing business cards, this is mine, KeithAndrewNetwork. And on the back, it has the message of what I do, and you can see it on my social media as well.
Nice.
Well, with that being said, I'm passing the show over to you. I do have a couple questions for you off the air, but what's the last 4 minutes and counting? Was there anything...
4 minutes and counting? Really? I thought you said about 1 minute ago. I didn't know time flew by so fast.
Well, I do have diarrhea of the mouth.
Okay. Well, basically, since I've got another 4 minutes, which... I wasn't really expecting, but then when I was in speech class, you were supposed to come up with something as an impromptu. So I also want to thank all my speech teachers I had in the past, my broadcasting teacher, Dr. Hildreth, who at times butted heads with. And, of course, he taught me all about the art of speaking and pronunciation, whatever else. And he was one of the people that just dropped their mouth when I, just timed everything on a consistent basis. The weather up to the top of the hour. It's like, right close to on the nose, they say, some people half second over, half over, 1 second, 5 seconds, this time over and all that. I did a consistent basis. And he looked at me and went, how did you do that? And this guy was a major CBS announcer out of New York, of all people. So you're like dealing with one of the best. But, of course, some people back then, you always butted heads, and they're just, very, 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 just I can't think of the word, but, just another big thank for that, too. And, of course, since you're in New York as well, too, and baseball season's around the corner, so I don't know how much you follow baseball, but, with the New York Mets, Jacob deGrom signing a 5-year deal, and I think, what was it, $40 million or $60 million or something? What do you think about that number, especially Jacob deGrom, winning a Cy Young despite having a really poor record and getting no run support? What do you think about him signing a huge contract just to stay on the Mets?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I listened to my conversations with my brother and my dad about sports, but I know absolutely zero about sports. I know the names, but I'm more of a wrestling fan, to be honest with you. But I do find it interesting.
Yeah, because the big headlines, in the offseason, so-and-so signs a lot of money. And, of course, I'm going to talk to you about salaries as well, too. And what do you think? That in baseball, that Manny Machado signed a 10-year, $300 million deal with the San Diego Padres, and then Bryce Harper signs a 13-year deal, $330 million with the Phillies, and then you got Mike Trout from the LA Angels. I used to call it California. I don't know why. 15 years, $430 million. And it's like these numbers are just staggering. So I guess my question to you is, do you think these players are worth the money, or do you think the money should go towards somebody else, or how much do you think they should get paid?
I think it should go if they're actually that good and they don't get hurt and they're very valuable, then yes. But I think it should go to training and giving them an education. And what actually, like I said, I really don't know much about it. But the thing I do want to ask you real fast is, how do you feel about people being drafted now, right away, being drafted out of high school? And, people said college is a big thing, but how do you feel about, in the NFL, the NBA, or whatever sport it may be, taking you right out of high school? Do you think it used to be you go to college, you get a degree or at least 2 years or something, then you can get drafted. Now they're just taking you right out of high school. I think, and I talked to my brother about this, education comes first. But he said, education comes first and you should go to college. And it's kind of like, yes, you may have talent and you can hit a ball 100 miles away, whatever, but if you're not educated and you're no longer a baseball player, how are you going to function in the real world?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I mean, I'm an old school guy. I think going straight from high school into pros is a bad thing because you're not developed enough, you're not mature enough, or physically, peaked yet. Because the colleges and the pros are obviously a whole different animal. But with the people doing these days, with the athletes, it's that many have money problems. They've got to throw in big money. What some are doing is basically just playing the sport for about 2-3 years. And then they go to school to finish up their degree because they got the money already. They can go to school and they can just go on with their lives as well, too. Back then it was considered an honor to go straight from high school over to whatever you're doing. But it's become abused so much where it's like it's actually watered down and diluted the talent. But what the players are doing nowadays is that, they'll take the money right away. They'll play for a few years, and then they'll take the money, reinvest. If they're smart enough, then they'll get an education. A great example is Eric Swan from the Arizona Cardinals from about 10 years ago, where he was drafted out of high school. He was drafted, I think, like 7th overall. He was a bust after a few years, but then when he got out of money, he took that money, went to the college of his choice, got his degree in 4 years, and eventually became successful. And I think he started running his own company. So some people just realize the root where it's like it is no longer just for the talent, but it's also for like just taking the money and just playing out their dreams. Nowadays, sports being so intense. I mean, you're lucky if you play 10, 15 years. I mean, nowadays they're only built for about 3 to 5, especially if you get hurt. And so now it's just like, just take all that money. If you're smart, just school for 4 years and just say, hey, I've already been through sports, and just move on to bigger and better things. And that's why a lot of these consultants come in, teaching NFL players that you got to invest. You got to invest, and you got to think about the future after football as well. So I think they're figuring it out. But I mean, for me, college is just like it become an extension of high school. But nowadays it's like many people are taking like a different route. It's like they think out of the box.
No, absolutely. Now we're wrapping up on our show. Do you have a couple questions for off the air? But one, how can people follow you on social media? Are you on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or any other websites I didn't mention? And two, when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your first reaction? And after being a guest, how you feel now, and what do you recommend it to other people?
Well, first of all, I'm going to answer your immediate question by saying when you came out and said, how'd you like to be a guest? I like to be a guest. I basically said, bring it on. I love having guests on. I did some research and looked you up and everything else. And, of course, I'll be playing the interview on my show coming up Thursday, April 4th. And, hopefully no technical difficulties or anything like that. Just find out about people and everything else and everything like that. It's a really good pleasure being on your show, and then hopefully you'll have 582 more people after me who'll be better than I am. I'm kidding. So, and people can hook me up on Facebook at facebook.com/Mike Wagner, and I'm behind a library with, oops, my mug isn't here right now, but you got that, Mike Wagner, The Mike Wagner Show, Mike Wagner KFYR, Mike Wagner Voiceover, Mike Wagner Professional, and From the Mind of Mike Wagner. I've got quite a number of Facebook pages, and you can also hit me up on Instagram at Mike Wagner Voiceover, Mike Wagner Show, The Mike Wagner Show, and I'm not on Twitter right now because I'm having some issues with those Tweety birds out there, and also I'm also on my shows on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeart Radio, and also YouTube. And people can also hook me up, be a guest, be a sponsor, or donate. Send an email to MikeWagnerVoiceover@gmail.com or the Mike Wagner Show at gmail.com. And of course, if you're willing to be a sponsor, become a donor, and also hit me up on PayPal as well too. I can be glad to get information, and you can just send some money over or whatever, and you can just hit me up anytime on weekends. KFYR Radio, Bismarck, North Dakota, KFYR.com, and Saturday mornings 6 to 10 a.m. Central Time, and Sundays 2 to 6, playing your favorites and greatest songs of all time.
No, absolutely. Now, stay tuned for Off the Air. I have a couple questions for you. Wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
Yes, and looking forward to part 2 as well, too. And Keith, and just want to say you've been great. Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you for being part of everything. And look forward to having you on soon and chatting as well, too. And who knows, it could be episode 1000 or 1001 or 999.
Never say never.
That's right. Thanks again.